Hello, it is Michele Payn, and I am here with Build Up Dietitians, just making sure that we are working. And if you could join us and let me know if you can hear us. I'm trying to stay out of the sun here in my office in Indiana. And certainly I'm happy to be with you all today. Excited to be a part of the conversation with Build Up Dietitians, and especially love talking about how farmers and dietitians need to be working together. So I'm just trying to make sure all my technology is set up here. Can you give me a shout if you can hear me, please? And my hope is that it is all working. This is Michele Payn. If you just joined us, I am coming live from our office in Indiana here. I'm with Cause Matters Corporation, and it looks like everything may be working. If you could give me a thumbs up, if you could hear me, that would be great. I also love to see who's joining us here. And my screen is not currently set so that I can see everyone. There we go. Build Up is saying that you can. Excellent. Hi, Stacy. Glad to see you here. If you just joined us, this is Michele Payn. I am the author of Food Truths from Farm to Table, a bronze medal in health, medicine, and nutrition from IPPY this last spring. And I am a professional speaker. I'm a mother. Most importantly, probably to all of you, I happen to be a lifelong dairy breeder, and specifically a Holstein breeder. And really what my work focuses on is being able to connect food and farm and help people understand where their food comes from. So I've been doing that for about 18 years now, which is a little hard to believe. And then over the last decade, I've really found the power of agriculture working with dietitians. So today I agreed to join up Build Up Dietitians to talk about some of the training that I'm doing with dietitians and with agriculture audiences alike, as well as my books, and really to answer questions that you have. So if you do have questions from the farm side of the plate, let me know. Sorry for the weird sunspot. I guess it's on this side. I'm trying my best to stay in the dark spot in my room, but I have a window that does not have a shade on it that I can't get the sun out of. So if you do have questions, please let me know throughout the program. I'm happy to respond to those, and just type those in the comment box and we'll get going on that. My name is Michele Payn. Again, if you've just joined us, my website is Cause Matters, CAUSEMATTERS.com. My social handle is @MPaynspeaker, so MPAYNSPEAKER. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, some of the questions that I had submitted beforehand, I'm going to go ahead and address. And if you have any questions about how food is produced today, the myths around food, and so forth, please do put those in the comments. The first question I have is, why do you think it's important for dietitians to learn about agriculture and farming? What are some resources you would recommend? So first, to answer that question about why it's important for dietitians to learn about agriculture and farming, I look at the conversation as a proverbial plate. And on one side, you have farmers, food producers, ranchers, depending on what label you put on, and on the other side, you have dietitians. In my mind, we can't have a productive conversation about food and farming if we're not working together. And so really, I believe that it's important for dietitians to learn about agriculture and farming, because that's obviously where food is sourced. For example, the context that farmers and ranchers can bring about animal welfare is something that may be unique to you. I've been told that most dietitians don't go through an animal science class, and farmers certainly represent that opportunity to learn. In the context of animal welfare, for example, if you take a look at some of the claims that are being made out there about cruelty to animals, if you talk with the farmer immediately about what they're doing with their pigs and why their pigs are being raised a certain way, like Peggy is on that can share that with you, Peggy Greenway. And dairy farmers, for example, I happen to have registered Holsteins and have had since I was 9 years old. They're beautiful creatures, but they can also be knotheads. But in all seriousness, one of the things that we do is make sure that they stay healthy. And I do give antibiotics to my animals when they're not healthy. And the beauty of that, and knowing that context, is the fact that one, it's done in animal welfare, and two, there's tremendous food safety protocol in place that protects your milk to ensure that antibiotic does not get into the milk system. It's tested at the cow level, it's tested at the bulk tank level, which is the big steel tube that it's stored in, and it's also tested at the tanker level where it's hauled at. So the reality is there's a lot of different points of context that farmers can bring. We talked about animal welfare. One of the things that farmers can also offer perspective are GMOs. And I know that is a very contentious issue, and it's one that people have a lot of questions about. But rather than believing what you're reading about GMOs in a negative context, perhaps talk to a farmer. By the way, this is Coco, the cat that apparently wants to photobomb. I tried to kick her out earlier, and she didn't want any part of it. So to continue on the importance of being able to have farmers and dietitians working together, I was talking about the context around GMOs, around animal welfare. Another one is around chemicals. And the beauty of dietitians and agriculture working together is that dietitians are also scientific based. So is agriculture. We both make decisions on scientific evidence. And that scientific evidence points to the fact that we're all comprised of chemicals. One of the things that I talked about significantly in Food Truths from Farm to Table was the fact that we are all made of chemicals, and there's different applications for chemicals, and that really the toxicity is in the dose. So the poison is in the dose. And Food Truths from Farm to Table really is meant to address, from a story standpoint, all of the 25 ways that we are made to feel guilty in the grocery store, the biggest myths and so forth. And there's a number of dietitians that are quoted in the book. So Food Truths from Farm to Table is a great resource if you're interested in learning more about the combination of science that's delivered through story. So that would be one resource that I will offer. Another resource that I would recommend would be to connect with farmers through social media. That can be done on Twitter, it can be done on Instagram through following a number of different hashtags. Connecting with your State Farm Bureau, if you've not already done that, is an incredible resource. If you're looking for an agriculture perspective to come to some of your trainings, farm bureaus do that extremely well. And there's any number of farmers that are on social media that can provide a great perspective to you. So the key is to ask the questions and to find out the science of why we do what we do on the farm. Rather than believing the negative claims, I would encourage you to go to the expert firsthand, and the expert in food production are farmers and ranchers. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to post them. I kind of feel like I'm talking to a black box right now. I'm used to having a conversation and a two-way back and forth. If there's any ag folks that are on that would like to suggest additional resources, feel free to put those in the comments as well. The reality is there are so many that are out there. And on my website at causematters.com, we have a list of advocate bloggers. We have a list of farm and ranch blogs from all over the world, as well as science blogs that are specifically relevant to science and nutrition and food science. And I suppose I probably should mention that we also have a compiled list of dietitian blogs. So if you would like your blog included on there, make sure that you let me know. So Leah Coco said hi back to you. She was glad to see you. Leah made a comment, if everybody can't see that, I would love to see ag classes be added to the requirements for dietetics education. I would love to see agriculture work together with dietetic preparation programs, food science programs. At my University of Michigan State, my beloved Spartans, packaging was actually part of our College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, as was food science. But I had zero exposure to that unless I took those classes. And so I think there's a huge opportunities on both sides of the plate for student organizations to do a much better job of working together and being able to learn from each other. Rather than believing the negative things that are sit out there or not knowing what dietitians do. I'm sure you all know that many people look at you as the food police. I know that's not true before I start getting a whole bunch of dislikes, but how are you going to help agriculture folks understand what you do and why your role at the food plate is important? Peggy, the farmer who's up in South Dakota, said, I love the teamwork and sharing food truths between RDs and farmers. Be sure to ask any questions. We farmers are here to chat. And I rely on the expertise of RDs to link my farm experience to food nutrition. Absolutely. A very natural link that a lot of folks don't even realize is out there is the diets that animals are fed. Believe it or not, my dairy cattle have their diet evaluated on more points of nutrition than any human that's out there. It's also evaluated more often. Dairy cows are like human Olympic athletes, if you will, and they're amazing performers, but it requires vast amounts of nutrition. The right kind of nutrition. And so that's one of the easy connects between human nutrition and animal nutrition. All right, any other questions that are coming in? I'm going to try to make sure I'm scrolling down here. What is one myth about farming / agriculture that you would like to hear more dietitians dispel? It's hard for me to narrow it down, I'm not going to lie. I am in the midst of writing my third book. It's called Food Bullying, about the phenomenon that we are seeing in the United States, and as I have since learned globally, unfortunately, about how we like to bully each other around our food choices. It's quite a sad phenomenon. It also shows that we lack critical thinking skills, in my opinion. The one phenomenon that I wish that everyone would perhaps address, particularly dietitians, is to understand that farmers are good people that are out there raising their food for the right reasons and the right way. And I know it's impossible to understand all of agriculture, but the care that it's required to put into raising animals, whether they be for beef or pork or sheep, and raising crops and caring for the land and caring for the environment, it's a 365-day-a-year job. And I don't know that we need to run around thanking farmers for that because they choose to do that, but I wish that you could take a look inside of our hearts and see how much we care deeply about the food that we're raising, because I think that's a point that's missed a lot. There's a lot of different myths, and I'm going to try to get this close to the camera. Ooh, did I get it? Yeah, that's pretty close. So this is the 25 food truths that are addressed in the book, Food Truths from Farm to Table. And I'm holding it up not for self-promotion, but to show you an idea of the 25 what I felt were the greatest myths. They are the topics that need to be addressed around the food plate the most, in my opinion, and they range from genes being the coolest ingredient on your plate, to organic farming is about production methods, not nutritional value, to sustainability includes economics, to the fact that convenience isn't always right or wrong. So there's really a tremendous amount of food and agriculture tips that are through those food truths, and they're brought to you by the 55 plus farmers, dietitians, doctors, veterinarians, and so forth that I actually interviewed in writing the book. One of the inspirations that I had from overcoming those myths was to start a training that included both farmers and dietitians, and it's a 12-hour intensive small group training. We've actually had a number of people such as Leah and Leah go through it, and we've had the cancer dietitian. I'm trying to think of everybody who has gone through. Kelly has gone through it, but it's a really unique opportunity to bring together farmers, agribusiness people, and dietitians and go through a process where they can build their own action plan to have a smarter conversation around farm and food. I'm a big proponent that we should not judge people on their food choices, just as we should not judge people on their farming choices. I don't know that advocacy is necessarily the right name for it. To me, it's about engaging in a conversation, and it's about leading the conversation. And so Table Talk is designed to do just that. And we have the next one coming up in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, and it's on April 24th and on April 25th. It starts about midday and ends about midday roughly. I'm just checking to make sure I have my dates right on that. Yes, April 24th and 25th. Would love to have you join us, and I believe Build Up is offering a stipend for any dietitians that are interested in going to that. And if anyone who has been to Table Talk would like to contribute some of the things that they've walked away and learned, it's really designed to be an intensive, personalized training. The cat's about ready to photobomb. Again, this is Coco, if you just joined us, and I'm trying to stay out of the sun, and she's wandering around entertaining everyone. So Coco there, she's going to give you the full profile view now. But anyhow, if you want to learn about Table Talk, you can visit my website, causematters.com /Table Talk training. I'll post the link here on Build Up. Build Up has promoted it. Thank you for doing that. And we already have several great people signed up. the early deadline for the registration ends on April 1st, but we do have several seats filled, and I do limit it, so I would love to have you there. It's a very personalized training. So going to one of the questions about that was posted. You are very active on social media. How do you deal with the people who criticize or troll you? So I've been on social media since 2008. And one of the best lessons that I've learned that I will offer the summary very quickly is always take the high road. That's not always easy. I've been called a paid corporate hack, a number of terms that I will not reiterate. And I can tell you it's not easy to take, but I also have policies in place. For example, on my business Facebook page, which is Cause Matters, I have a policy in place that if you choose to criticize other people, personally hurting them, using profanity or the like, then I will delete your comment and I will block you. And I offer no apologies for that. The way that I deal with some of those that perhaps aren't as flagrant in their insults is I will go back and forth with them. And if it reaches a point where it's clearly not a productive conversation, then I no longer put my energy there. And I do recommend that because I think that the skill to turn away when you need to is critically important in social media because it can drive you nuts otherwise. Likewise, on my blog, which is Gate to Plate, it's found on my website. My blog is a moderated blog. I do not put comments on there or allow comments on there. Again, if they are negative, if they are personally criticizing or attacking, if they include profanity of any kind, or if they're condemning people who were never involved in the blog in the first place. And again, I delete without any apology because I believe strongly that it's my platform and that energy flows where your attention goes. If you don't want your energy to flow to the naysayers, then don't put any attention there. The one thing that I would counsel around social media is to always remember that it is a fishbowl. And I will take the time to offer to answer legitimate questions for the folks that are out there watching, because I have learned over the years that there are more people watching than those that are commenting and liking and so forth. So I feel like I've talked a long time, and I think you guys should be asking some questions about what you would like to know as far as dietitians and agriculture working together. If there's any ag folks, do you have questions for the dietetic community and so forth? Because I really don't want this to be a one-way stream. If you just joined us, hi, I'm Michele Payn. I'm with Cause Matters. I'm sitting here in cold Indiana, but there's a sunspot in my office, so I'm trying to stay out of it as well as hide my very messy office while I'm writing my third book, Food Bullying, because it's been a little crazy lately. If you do have any questions, please let me know. I would be delighted to have some of those to answer. And one of the questions that I get asked a lot from the agriculture side is, what do dietitians do and why do we need to connect with them? And I think the importance of being able to reiterate to ag folks that you have an interest in how food is produced and specifically what some of your questions are. Because again, the context in food production is so important to being able to make the recommendations that you do around making your dietetic recommendations. And that's true whether you're on the retail side, whether you're working corporately, whether you're clinical or whatnot. And I always recommend that if you have the opportunity to get on a farm to do so, whether that's virtually or whether that is in person. I know that South Carolina Farm Bureau, if you happen to be down in South Carolina, they are actually organizing a dietitian's tour. I think they're going to invite some chefs too this spring, so that would be an opportunity for you. So, Leah, I see you joined. Kelly, I see you're here. Hello to everyone. Does anyone have any questions that you would like to ask me? I don't want to keep talking into an echoing box here, and I'm glad to be able to ask questions and whatnot. And I'm just going to jump out and check my other notifications real quick and see. There we go. Okay, so it looks like everything is fine. One of the questions that I am often asked about is why farmers do what they do. Why do we do things such as implant hormones into beef cattle as an example. First off, I think it's important to understand that not every farmer and rancher is using implants as far as hormones. Secondly, it's critically important that you understand the purpose of those hormones and the fact that hormones are chemical messengers of life. Much like many people are in hormone replacement therapy on birth control and whatnot, animals require hormones to regulate their bodily functions. And implants are used because it actually is an efficiency tool, and it's basically the size of an Advil capsule that is put into an ear, because the ear of the animal is never put in the food processing system. And it allows the animal to be more efficient in the food that they eat so that they can grow more quickly, therefore having less of an environmental impact. That's the simplest explanation that I can offer. Farmers do that because, quite frankly, we're very concerned about the environment. We're concerned about being efficient, and we're concerned about our opportunity to use modern day technology, which implants are a tool to do that. So that's one of the questions that I am asked. Let's see, another question that I am frequently asked is how farmers are involved in the price of food and the quality of food. Well, the price of food, it's very interesting because depending on what study you believe, farmers really receive less than 16 cents of every dollar. It's pretty interesting times in agriculture. If you're not aware, the economy has led to a number of issues, including some mental health and suicide issues. I'm not going to get into that a whole lot aside from this. If you recall that the myth that I wanted to address and have dietitians understand was about how much we care in agriculture. We care so much that many farmers define themselves as who they are by what they do. In other words, they define themselves as a farmer first over being a human being. And so when farmers lose the opportunity to farm, they don't see their purpose. That's my assessment. That is not a psychological assessment, but I think that understanding the incredible economic challenges that we have right now in agriculture really does affect people mentally. And then also understanding that food prices aren't necessarily reflective of prices that are being paid on the farm. 16 cents of every dollar, again, goes to farmers. And as far as food safety is something I know that you take very seriously as a dietitian. It is certainly something that farmers take very critically as well. And it's important to understand that some of the recalls that we've had, not all, but some, are because of modern day technologies and being able to catch what's happening earlier as far as the bacterium. And then also understanding that sometimes wildlife are the reasons why there are food safety concerns. I'm not going to dispel all of that. So, all right, I just noticed that we have some questions. Stacy said, I work in public health on a community college campus. What points would you like to make to young adults? I would like young people to understand that there are humans that are out there raising their food, and those humans care deeply about how that food is raised. They are not controlled by corporations, and that the folks that are out there that are raising food today are trying to do so with the most modern technology possible. Peggy asked, RDs, do you have good luck finding farmer friends to help answer your clients' production questions? That's a great question. Thank you, Peggy. How can we help more with that? Michelle has a great list of farmer blogs, social media users. And again, that's a compiled list. It's not any self-promotion. It's just a list that we have compiled over the years and years and years. Farmers, advocates, dietitians, and scientists. It's found at causematters.com. And I think it's under other resources. You would think that I would know. I will post the link in here. Build up dietitians. Besides Farm Bureau, what are some other ways RDs can connect with farmers? Search hashtag agriculture, hashtag ag Twitter, hashtag farm, hashtag farming, hashtag farm life, hashtag rancher, hashtag ranching, hashtag rural life. Those are some of the great ways. There's any number of alliances. Most commodity groups will be glad to answer dietitian questions. So for example, corn is one of the things that we have not talked about, but clearly corn is a concern from GMOs, HFCS, and sometimes from chemicals. And I know corn growers certainly want to work with you and will be glad to connect with farmers. All right, Leah, I get the sense that even though people say they want to know where their food comes from, they don't really, especially when it comes to animal agriculture. Sometimes it can backfire when people visit a farm and see how animals are raised for food. Any thoughts on how to address this? Perhaps earlier exposure to farming. Yes, I think that it's critical to understand that farming is not always a pretty business. If I were to take you out to my pasture right now, and by the way, I thought about standing in the barn, but it's 20-some degrees here, so I decided that we were going to stand in my warm office with cat photobombing us. You would see a lot of mud and manure and nastiness. My animals are healthy, my animals are happy, my animals are well grown, but farming isn't always a prettier business. So how do we address this? Number one is to provide the context around our practices and also the way that things look. The context is when you are, for example, dehorning a calf, perhaps it looks incredibly cruel, and the animal rights activists would want you to believe that it's incredibly cruel. But we dehorn our cattle to protect my daughter, to protect myself, and to protect each other, because those animals can do horrible things to each other with their horns. So earlier exposure is critical, realistic exposure, hard conversations, having the transparent conversations. I'm sure some of the hog folks that will be watching and on this later will be appalled by this, but last year I had the opportunity to be on a podcast in Santa Barbara, and I literally asked them if they've ever been bit in the butt when they were walking down the road on the sidewalk, and clearly none of them have, but I did that because I was talking about why pigs' tails are trimmed and what pigs do to each other and why we file beaks in chickens and what chickens do to each other. Because here's the deal, if you've not been exposed to animal agriculture, as much as I love these animals and care for these animals, I know that they're ultimately cruel. They're huge bullies. They do terrible things to each other. And I don't know that farmers need to show pictures of animals doing terrible things to each other, but if we have the opportunity to talk to folks like dietitians to explain why we're doing what we're doing, it makes for a much stronger, smarter conversation, in my opinion. So sorry, I probably got off a little bit on my my soapbox on that one. Peggy did note that it's important to note that the calf uses up a supplement. We're talking back about hormone implants over its growing time. So at processing, there's negligible difference between non-supplemented and supplemented as far as the hormone levels. If you want those specific hormone levels, they are in the meat section of Food Truths from Farm to Table. They are all documented there and so forth. So any other questions that you have? I would be delighted to connect with any of you. My social handle is @MPayneSpeaker. Table Talk is coming up in Raleigh, North Carolina area on April 24th and 25th. Dietitians and agriculture folks are invited to be a part of that 12-hour training. And my website with the blog and all the compilations of the different bloggers that are out there that you can connect with is at causematters.com. And another person denoted that they love Common Ground. There's U.S. Farmers and Ranchers Alliance, there's Common Ground, there's Farm Bureau's American Farm Bureau. There are a wide variety of different resources. I'm looking at the specific page where the blogs are right now in case you're wondering why I'm looking distracted. But if you have any last minute questions, please do let me know, and I will be glad to answer them. Did you show your books? Yes, Leah. There's one. Sorry, it's in the sunspot. Find the camera, Michelle. There you go. There's Food Truths from Farm to Table. That's the first one. No More Food Fights this is the first book from 2013. This is the book from 2 years ago. Food Bullying, I will tell you without any promise, should be released by the end of the year. It will be. I'm almost done writing it. It will be available at my website and various other bookstores in the next month. I would invite you to pre-order it. Food Bullying has been a fascinating look at the psychology and neuroscience and marketing and the intersection of where all of that meets. I've been a little dumbfounded, I won't lie, at exactly how we've been manipulated to buy food. And the misinformation campaigns that are out there, from Listerine to vaccines and autism to food, are breathtaking. And it's been one of my greatest challenges and privileges to write about that. So I hope that you will pick up a copy early of Food Bullying and share it with your colleagues. And if there's no other questions, I want to be sure that I say thank you to the dietitians. I've had the privilege of getting to know great people like Leah and many others that I am forgetting on camera to mention over the last decade. And it has truly been a privilege because it has changed my perspective around food, and it's changed my perspective on expertise around food. And in all of my writing, I tell people to go to the firsthand experts if they want information about food. If that has to do with the way the food is produced and where it comes from, that's a farmer or rancher. If it has to do with the nutritional value of food, that is an RDN. And I always make sure I differentiate what a professional dietitian is. And I deeply appreciate the work that you all are doing. I've been delighted to see some of the connections that have been made over the years through Egg Chat and Food Chat and a lot of other efforts. So thank you for all that you do, dietitians. If you have any other questions, feel free to ping me here. Check me out at Payn Speaker, website, so forth and so on. I think that you have all of that information. We will make sure that we put it in there. And thank you. Have a wonderful Friday and weekend, everyone. Bye.